Hey there, this is Liam from Running Remote, and today I'm sharing with you 4 great tips to help fight Zoom and video call fatigue. Let's go. But before we get into that, if you're watching this video, I bet you are interested in remote work. Are you subscribed to this very YouTube channel or perhaps our email newsletter? Links below for more ways to get more Running Remote content to you faster. Okay, so Zoom calls, love them, hate them, love to hate them. We've all been doing a ton of them for almost an entire year now. And as someone who's been working remotely for over 15 years, video calls are kind of like second nature to me, but I can actually understand why a ton of folks who get dropped into this remote work world literally overnight might have really not very much enjoyed them up until this point. I recently did a video on talking about my ultimate Zoom call setup. Why? Because I was advocating for the importance of looking and sounding your best when on all of these video calls. And I knew some of you were probably thinking, I hate Zoom calls. Why would I want an ultimate Zoom setup? Or perhaps you were saying, why do I need to look good in the camera anyways? Hashtag hoodie life. That's me. Well, for those of you that don't like video calls, have you ever thought maybe it's because they cause you to feel, well, fatigued? It's a real thing. And I'm here to tell you, with these tips and a different mentality about video calls, you might actually start to enjoy them. Tip number 1 is going to be the total opposite of what you want to hear. Being on camera is actually better for all parties involved. With more and more folks working remotely, there's finally more scientific research and studies coming out all about remote work challenge opportunities and the like. Sure, being on camera requires more focus, more on that later, but it helps immensely with nonverbal communication. Not just hearing someone speak, but actually seeing how they're expressing themselves helps you be more connected and increases comprehension and less back and forth communication. Less back and forth communication is something we all want. It also gives you more confidence in how people are receiving what you're saying. By keeping an eye out on these responses, you don't have to second guess yourself about who or what you said. What better way to fight Zoom fatigue than by not racking your brain about tons of voices or whether teammates were silent or not. Tip number 2, put in some guardrails to help keep you focused on the meeting and the task at hand. While multitasking is still a buzzword, there's piles of research that shows we aren't really that good at it. No matter how many devices or apps you have, if you're in a video call, go full screen. This is one of the easy ways to make sure that you're not distracted by checking your email, surfing the web, or talking to other people on chat apps. And frankly, I've done that a couple times before. Honestly, this is something that you don't want to do long term. You're just wasting your time. Chatting in a Zoom call with folks you're on with makes actual sense and is respectful to them. But listen, I guarantee you, no matter how great you think you are with multitasking, you are not good at multitasking. Clearing your inbox, getting rid of all of the other things that are distracting you throughout your workday is the only way to actually work remotely. Being on video is also a way to help ensure you're staying focused, which is also very respectful to the other people on that Zoom call. I don't know if you've ever seen people on Zoom do things like this, but we all know that that stuff is happening. Cut it out. It's not nice to other people, and frankly, you're just wasting your time. Tip number 3, put a time limit on the length of your calls. Everyone knows that feeling we get right about the 45-minute mark into a video call. It's almost like when we were back in high school and packing up our stuff a few minutes before the bell rang, ready to bolt out the door. We get antsy, we're thinking about what's next. Perhaps we're so accustomed to actually getting notifications that we're literally desperate for something else to do. Comprehension and participation in video calls plummets after 45 minutes. Now, on the other hand, if you're scheduling what would be an important all hands or offsite that would be taking up to, a couple hours, a significant amount of time to actually get done, schedule breaks. Everyone needs bio breaks, but more than that, they need to step away and reset, refresh, and remain able to actually continue to be engaged properly. As with anything, there is a bell curve, and with all of this recent stuff with regards to Zoom calls and COVID, meeting up in person is still really important. If you are thinking that you need more than 3 hours, it might be time to consider an in-person offsite, or Have you participated in a flex workspace like a co-working space to get actually face-to-face with some of your remote coworkers? That's also an option too. Tip number 4, similar to the last tip, it's about timing, but controlling your calendar as to how much time every day you allow video calls. Think about time blocking as another way to help ensure you don't get sucked into so many video calls that you don't have any choice but to be fatigued. Google recently made an announcement that as part of their evolution on hybrid working and remote working, that there are some no meeting days or even a no meeting week once a month. Work with your team or your manager to determine how best to do this. You shouldn't have more than 50% of your workday be spent on active video calls, unless of course video calls are some essential component of your role. Listen, frankly, just make sure that you're doing this respectfully to other people. Video calls are really important. They do give you that context that you wouldn't have otherwise gotten when you are just tapping with people over the Slack and or Microsoft Teams universe. But the reality is do the Zoom calls efficiently, do them effectively, and your business is going to be way more successful. So if you have any other questions, please put them down in the comments below. And while you're down there, why don't you actually subscribe to this YouTube channel? It is actually free and quite enjoyable, in fact, because we make videos like this every single weekday. See you in the next video.